Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Nancy Joseph, aka the Dynamic Doc. Welcome back to my channel. And if this is your first video of mine that you're watching, thank you for watching. Welcome, welcome. So I hope everyone is remaining safe and remaining healthy. And now that a lot more people are getting vaccinated, the restrictions are being relaxed a little bit. So I hope, you're getting to spend some time with me, some family members, some more family members. And also, as the weather gets warmer, I'm hoping everyone is getting some time to get out there and get some vitamin D. With that, and also please get vaccinated. I have a vaccination video about my experience with the vaccine. So I'll link that down below so you can go ahead and check that out. And while you're at it, go ahead and check out my previous videos if you haven't had a chance to do so. This video will pick up where we left off in the last journey video. I'll also link that video down below. So we talked about fellowship in the first couple of years that are starting or transitioning into fellowship. And so with this video, we'll talk about the latter parts of fellowship and just kind of general guidelines and rules and experiences and, applying for an attending job. So, the latter years of your fellowship, usually you'll have more elective time. And so you'll be able to do some things kind of based on what you think you may want to do in terms of how you want to shape your practice, that type of thing. One of the most important things for you to keep in mind and to be analyzing and digesting is, what do I want my practice to look like? Now, depending on your subspecialty, you may be, it may be more kind of a heavily outpatient subspecialty or a heavily hospital-based subspecialty, or you could, tailor it either or. Allergy immunology happens to be one of those subspecialties where you could be tailored either or. So you really want to nail down, what gels better with me, and do I really want to do, more outpatient? Do I really want to do more inpatient? Do I want a balance of the two? Also, you can be asking yourself, do I want to do private practice? Do I want to own a practice? Do I want to do a private practice where I buy in, where there's a partnership track? So you want to keep that in mind too, because some people, hey, I want to do private practice, but I want the opportunity to be able to, have some ownership in that practice. And so those are things to have in mind, to kind of have figured out in, at least in a general sense, before you embark on your journey to interviewing for attending jobs, because that, determines which jobs you're interviewing at, and also the questions to ask during your interview. And so those are things to keep in mind. Now, as far as just kind of the general clinical, how it goes, you definitely, still being a sponge, you want to ask the questions, because you don't want to leave any stone unturned. This is your chance to ask your attendings to, get maybe their ideas, like, okay, in this situation, why do you do this versus this? And making sure that you gather the resources that you can, things that will help you. What I did is I made a binder. It's like a big allergy immunology binder. And it's basically, I said to myself, if I were to wake up one day and have amnesia and have to figure out how to be an allergist all over again, I wanted it to kind of be like a guidebook. This is my allergy immunology, like end all be all binder. And I've, organized it for, with in terms of like disease state, and then at the end, part of it is, practice management and things you'd use, that type of thing. So for me, if I'm ever really like stuck, I can look into that. Or of course, there's resources online with your perspective ahead, like organizations or academies. So definitely want to make sure that you utilize those resources and make sure that you know what's available to you, so that when you get into that real world and you're attending, you know where to go for various information. And oftentimes your attending usually are available to you for at least the first few months when you transition to being attending. But let's talk about that, transitioning into being an attending. So of course, you've now kind of had the lay of the land of fellowship, and now you're interviewing to be just that, for your attending job. Number one, it's very similar to, in terms of like, you want to make sure you research the practice. You want to make sure, location, what type of practice it is, that type of thing. Now, I'll talk generally about things to look out for private practices, because I during fellowship, was privy to, what it would look like inpatient, what it would look like outpatient, and I decided that I wanted to be exclusively outpatient. I no longer wanted to carry a beeper, so I no longer wanted to be on any inpatient call. And I know that I wanted a schedule where I have weekends off. In terms of like off, meaning I don't have to go into clinic. Of course, I'm still like on house call. So then I'm in a group now. We share calls on the weekends, but I didn't want to have to go into the hospital over the weekend, that type of thing. And so I, only interviewed at private practices. So that's something you wanted to look into. But you want to research that private practice. You want to maybe research the viability of that practice. And by that, I mean, sometimes, oftentimes, you talk to them on the phone before you meet in person. And depending on your subspecialty, there may be different resources to find said jobs. So when you're talking on the phone, hey, you send an email, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm interested in this position, attached is my CV and cover letter. So cover letter is important because it's basically a letter of like intention, so to speak. And so I had a cover letter that I was sending, and I had my CV. And oftentimes your program director and your attendings can help you with that. Obviously, your program director, associate program director are a good resource. So I did that. I sent out emails, and you may not get a reply back from all the emails that you sent. And also, you want to make sure you start early. So you need to start as early as you would if you're applying for, like you did in the ARIS application, because you need time. You need time to interview. You need time to, to gather up enough money to go to these interviews, and you need time to make the decision, an informed decision. So, you get your cover letter, got your CV together, you're sending out emails. When you get some back, they usually would say, hey, yeah, let's set up a time to talk. And then sometimes they'll have maybe a recruiter working for them, and you'll talk with the recruiter first, and then they'll make that decision on, in-person interviews, that type of thing. And so during that first screening process where you're talking to, maybe it's the owner of the private practice, you should be asking all the questions like, what's your mix? Like in my specialty, we see adult and pediatrics. What's your mix of adult and pediatrics? What's my call schedule like? What are my hours like? What kind of, you use EMR systems? Because some people still don't use EMR. Or maybe they are, and it's kind of a hybrid where some parts are in EMR and some parts are not. So you want to have all those questions so they can have a better idea, because when you go into your in-person interview, you want to glean, what is the staff like? Do they have frequent staff turnover? Because that's important, because if every month or two your whole staff, somebody's leaving, somebody's quitting, what's happening in that practice? So you want to understand that, the area. What does that mean in terms of where, where you'd have to live to get to that? Do they have expectations as far as how far you should be? And of course, oftentimes that's if you're doing like a hybrid on call with the hospital and that type of thing. You want to ask what's covered. What are my benefits? What are my benefits as far as like either have healthcare benefits? Some private practices do, some don't. If this is full time, what are the days I'm expected to work? Sometimes full time is just 4 days a week. Sometimes full time is 5 days a week and every other Saturday. So you want to make sure that you get that schedule down, get your benefits down, and get your if your call schedule is important, or rather it is important, but if that's part of what you're going to do in terms of like inpatient call, get that down. If it's just house call, like, then okay, how often is that? What's expected of me? That type of thing. Do I have remote access to the EMR? Can I, that way you can just maybe type in a little like quick, like, talk to the patient, this was the concern type thing. So all those questions you should be asking in your interview process. And then depending on how well that goes, sometimes you get an offer on the spot. And then other times you get, hey, we'll let you know in a week. We'll let you know within a week, that type of thing. And then they'll let you know, and then they'll be like, well, unfortunately, we went with somebody else. Or, hey, we know we really love you. Here's a contract. And so what I'll do is I'll do a separate video about, contracts, kind of little things to look out for. I'm by no means a contract expert, but little tidbits on that. And then I'll just have a separate video about contracts and transition into an attending. So I'll just keep this about interviewing and getting yourself together as far as CVs and cover letters and things like that. So stay tuned for the next video where I'll talk about more into that transitioning as an attending process and the contractual process. And in the meantime, go ahead and check out my previous videos, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Be blessed, stay safe. Peace.